All right, Luke, we are ready when you are ready.
Great. Do we have any public comments, by the way?
No.
Okay. All right. I will call to order the meeting of the City of Verona Common. I'm getting a weird building.
That might be you, Charlie. Can you mute your mic?
Getting feedback. Okay, there we go. I will call to order the meeting of the Verona Common Council for Tuesday, May 26th, 2020 at 7:01 p.m. We will begin with the roll.
Alderperson Cronin?
Present.
Alderperson Gaskell? I'm sorry.
Not here anymore.
He gone.
Alderperson Journey?
Here.
Alderperson Kemp?
Here.
Alderperson Cole?
Here.
Alderperson Posey?
Here.
Alderperson Reiki?
Here.
Alderperson Touche?
Here.
All right, we will move on to item 3, which is public comments. Mr. Sayer, were there any public comments?
No, we had no requests tonight for any public comments.
All right. With that, we will move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes from the May 11th, 2020 Common Council meeting. Questions, corrections, or motions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Reiki. Last chance for corrections. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the May 11th, 2020 Common Council meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. That motion passes. Next up, we will move on to item 5, which is mayor's business. Under 5A, we have the oath of office for the new District 2 alderperson. Clerk Clark.
Hey, Charlie, if you would raise your right hand for me, please. And repeat after me. I, Charlie Ryan,
I, Charlie Ryan,
having been appointed to the office of alderperson, District 2
having been appointed to the office of Alderperson, District 2
of the City of Verona,
of the City of Verona,
but having not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but not having entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully execute the duties of the office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to item 5B, which is Common Council Committee member appointments. We talked about this back at the April organizational meeting, but I just want to make it official. We are appointing Alder Ryan to the Public Works Committee. But I would, just to make it official, I would accept a motion to approve that appointment.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Alder Ryan to the Public Works Committee, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 5C, which is Citizen Committee member appointments. I just have one here for Christopher Hopp to reappoint him to the Library Board. Technically, it doesn't expire till July 1. But I was on top of things for once, and I had asked Mr. Hopp if he wanted to stay on, and he said yes, so I figured we might as well do it now. So a motion to approve that appointment would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp, I think. All those in favor of approving that citizen appointment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Next, I'll move on to my final item, 5D. Basically, I'm still getting a little feedback. Okay, good. Basically, this is my mini lecture. The CDA talked about the Sugar Creek Elementary School proposals. It's on YouTube, and a decision wasn't made, obviously, because otherwise it'd be on the agenda tonight. However, we kind of got a bit of a tight timeline. So the CDA is going to make a decision, and then the council is going to have to make a decision right after that. So I would advise everyone to review the proposals. If you want to go back on YouTube from the city's channel and just look at the presentations, kind of listen to them in the background, and make sure you stay caught up on it. That would be super great, because it's a super important project for the city, and we're going to kind of have a not a rush timeline, but you'll have to consider it and maybe not have a ton of time for it. So very important topic. So I would like everyone to give it their due consideration. But that's all I had. I will move on to item 6, which is announcements. Any members of the council have any announcements? Alder Kemp.
I'm sorry. I think Evan had a question for the.
Oh, my apologies. Alder Touche.
I did. Thank you, Chad. Can you explain the reason for the timing of these things?
For the Sugar Creek Elementary School?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, I guess, twofold. Is one, with the COVID-19 thing, we had a bit of a delay with some of the applications. And two, I think, we want to hit the ground running. The city's not going to take possession of the property until November of this year. So basically, it's just kind of a little bit condensed. And then from the CDA meeting, as a member of the CDA, basically there was a lot of information at the presentations. I and I think other members of the CDA wanted to kind of compare what developers said versus what there was in their proposal, and have a little time to kind of chew on it before making a recommendation to the council. Alder Cole?
And also they had mentioned that in order for any of the developers to apply for like low income.
I think we lost your sound.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. In order for the developers to apply for like tech credits and like different tax credits for workforce housing and WIDA credits, I believe those are all due in June. And so I believe that was one of the reasons where we need to make a decision. So that way, if they need to apply for those types of things for us to get workforce housing, they have the appropriate time to do so.
Alder Touche.
Thank you. So, I mean, I just know from personal life experience, when you rush decisions, sometimes you don't make the best decision. And as much as I understand, the application for loans and such to being tied to June, there's June next year. This is a big deal for the city, and I honestly am not a fan of being rushed. I obviously I believe in a reasonable process. It's just I don't know that that's a good enough reason to rush things. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally fair point. But I guess, that's why I'm trying to tell people now that they should kind of take a look at the presentations, so kind of get a head start on reviewing it. Alder Cole?
And also just so the CDA has taken a lot of time in consideration and interviewing and reading through all the proposals and everything. So by the time it gets to the council, my hope would be that you would trust the CDA as really vetted the proposals and the developers, and really feel like what we're bringing forward to the council is appropriate, and that you will agree with our choice. So, I mean, I know it might feel a little bit rushed, but we've really spent tons and tons of our own time going through all of this on our own as a committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, item 6, announcements. Does anyone from the council have any announcements? Alder Rieke.
I just wanted to make kind of a public service announcement that with garage sales, a constituent brought to my attention a concern over like community or citywide garage sales being potentially accumulating more than 50 people, and like with the exchange of money and used goods and things like that, just being cognizant of social distancing guidelines in whatever form they're in, you know, a couple weeks from now versus 3 months from now for garage sailing, and maybe strongly consider canceling or postponing garage sales.
I do kind of wonder what kind of crowds people would get. But yeah. Any other announcements from the council? Seeing no further hands up, we'll move on to item 7, which is the administrator's report. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. I have a few items tonight. We do have a plan commission meeting on next Monday, June 1st. The only item we have on the agenda that night is discussion about the zoning code rewrite. So probably not the, for some people, not the the most important topic, but it's what's going to guide us for in the future with our regulations and ordinances. So something to watch if you're interested. And then we also have the CDA meeting on June 2nd that Mayor Diaz was talking about. The CDA at the June 2nd meeting will hopefully potentially narrow the list down from 4 developers, potentially 2 or 1, and at some point that will get to the council. That will also be broadcast on YouTube and also recorded as well. So if anyone's interested in that meeting and can't make it, I would encourage you to watch it later on YouTube. Regarding that, as Mayor Diaz said, just to reemphasize, if you do get a chance to watch those videos, I would encourage you to do that. Some of the proposals included public spaces and also tax increment financing requests. So those are requests that require the council decision. So it's very important to if you have a chance ahead of time to watch those videos and just have a pretty good understanding of what's in the proposals and also what developers said as part of their presentation. All those proposals have been posted on the city's website. Just a quick update on COVID-19. City staff continues to monitor the guidance from the state in Dane County regarding city programming and city facilities. Today at 8 a.m. was the phase 1 kind of slowly reopening of Dane County. We're keeping a very close eye on just the guidance that we get from the county with this. We are in the process of looking at how we can restart some of our programs. That includes playground group that looks at, also looking at recreation activity as well. We've reached out to Dane County for some guidance on that too. But we're also working directly with the Forward Dane plan to kind of guide us as we look at those options. The library is exploring some options right now to expand their offerings as the county progresses through the Forward Dane plan. So there's more information to come on that in the future, but we are trying to expand our offerings at the library. We've had a lot of interest in the curbside pickup. There's a lot of demand for that, but as we kind of progress through the plan here, we're going to see if there's other ways we can slowly open up the library. Like I said, the rec department is looking at the recreation opportunities for the summer, making sure we have the right protections in place with safety and health and hand sanitizers. But we continue to explore that as well. We anticipate right now keeping City Hall, the Public Works Building, and the Senior Center closed to the public for probably at least the next month. We don't see much of a reason to kind of rush into opening those facilities at this time. We haven't had that much of a demand, especially here at City Hall. The police department side of City Hall remains open to the public, but the administrative side has been closed now for a month or two. We've got the drop box in the parking lot. We have the drop box in the lobby here. It's worked well. We are slowly, gradually transitioning most of our staff kind of back into the offices with proper protections and safety procedures in place. So that is gradually occurring here. But I think opening to the public as of right now, I think we're probably at least a month out here before we take a real serious look on that. I think we want to see how things progress here. And like I said, there has not been a demand for people to wanting or needing to get into the building at this time. So, and with that, I guess that's all I have tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Alderiki.
I was just curious about once the CDA determines their pick from the Sugar Creek development proposals, and should it include a pool, would the council be able to sort of give the developer feedback about whether or not it should have a pool, or would that be sort of a deciding factor that the council would not any longer be able to weigh in on.
Yeah, so the CDA is actually making a recommendation to the Common Council. So whatever comes out of the CDA is ultimately just a recommendation. And that recommendation is something similar to saying, we recommend that the city work with developer X to progress through their planning and development of the site. So we're not necessarily fully signing off on their project. You're directing staff and the developer to work together, work through the planning and development process to end up with a final product. I think when those projects, those plans kind of get to the council, that's a legitimate kind of question or comment to ask the developer of if that's something that, we get to the point and the council wants that. I would say definitely bring it up as a point of discussion, whether it's to that selected developer or, however the CDA recommends it. A couple options that staff had given the CDA was if they can narrow it down to one developer, that's an option. But you could also look at narrowing it down to two options and having a committee of the whole meeting with the council to kind of talk through the proposals as well too. So there's a couple different options that the CDA can do with this, but that's a good question you can ask, I think, when those projects get to the council.
And I think if I might add, the council will have a lot of discretion too, just, under its decision-making authority. So, pool, no pool, that'll ultimately be a council decision. But I would definitely recommend reviewing the proposals, which I guess I already did. Any other questions for Mr. Sayer? Seeing none, we will move on to the engineer's report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. I'm going to highlight just the projects that have updates, but feel free to ask about anything that you have questions on. For the Well 6 pumping station construction, COVID protocols are still being followed by the contractor and subcontractors to minimize chances of more than one trade in the same area at the same time. Interior painting of the walls is complete. Interior plumbing, electrical, and HVAC are expected to be complete within the next week. Asphalt paving is expected in late May to June, depending on asphalt supply, and the wellhead protection plan has been approved by the DNR. Startup of the well is now expected the second week of June. For the high school construction traffic improvements project, West Verona Avenue outside lanes are closed to the project area with landscaping and electrical items planned to be completed. In the next month or so, lanes will be shifted back to the outside so that the inside lanes can be closed to complete the electrical signal items there. Surface asphalt paving has been completed. West End Circle traffic will continue to be on the new lower lift of asphalt in the eastbound lanes and will remain for a month or so. At that time, both lifts of asphalt will be placed on the westbound lanes and traffic will then be split, that is placed on its appropriate side with lane closures to complete the remaining asphalt paving and restoration items. Work has also begun on North and South Nine Mound Road. Specifically, traffic on Nine Mound Road north of West Verona Avenue will remain on the east half to complete road improvements and turn lane construction. After the west half is completed, traffic will be switched and road improvements on the east half completed. Traffic on Nine Mound Road south of West Verona Avenue will be placed in the new traffic location, pending pavement marking completion with the road closure plan completion. Some finishing items will remain. For County Highway PD construction from Woods Road to County Highway M, the new eastbound lanes are completed with landscaping remaining. Eastbound and westbound traffic are now in the new eastbound lanes with crossovers at each end of the project. Crews are now working on the new westbound lanes and storm sewer will continue for the next couple of months. For the Liberty Park Phase 4 construction project, work has started on Wayland Road. The contractor is focusing on the north side of the road. The 5-foot wide bike lane on the north side is scheduled for paving this week. And then work will shift to the south side where there is grading needed for the new sidewalk. And finally, for Kettle Creek North Phase 3, work has started on this project. Sanitary sewer work is about 75% complete. Rain in the middle of the month has put work on hold for a few days. There is about a day of work left to finish the sanitary sewer. Water main work will follow immediately after sanitary. This week, they're expecting to be doing street grading. And with that, I can take any questions.
Any questions on the engineer's report? Seeing none, we will move on to item 9, which is committee reports. First up, we have Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Rieke.
Thank you. I recommend the Common Council approve a temporary premises description amendment for the liquor license of the Hop House Brewing Company, LLC, 231 South Main Street, to include the front parking lot with contingency of closing at 10 p.m. rather than 11 p.m., which is listed in the permit.
And that was a motion?
Yes.
Sorry, you had said
Oh,
recommend, so I just wanted to make sure.
recommend, I move.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Alder Rieke, seconded by Alder Cole. Alder Rieke.
The explanation is that Phil Hoxt has applied for a temporary premises description amendment for the liquor license of the Hop House Brewing Company to include the business's front parking lot. This will allow them to serve more customers while adhering to required social distancing guidelines.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Alder Posey.
What's the parking plan? I know it's not a large parking lot, but moving seating into that space, what's the parking plan for that area?
We did not discuss that at the committee level. Adam, do you have an answer for that? Or Ellen, maybe?
It would just be closed. So if you've ever been there or been past them before in the summer, they have a anniversary party where they close off the whole parking lot. It'd be similar to that. So the lot would be closed off for traffic, and they'd have the barriers that they use from race day events around that seating area as well. So that the whole parking area would just be closed during this time.
Alder Rieke.
There are excellent public parking lots on both sides of the Hop House. So those can be utilized.
Thank you very much for that explanation.
Any further questions or comments on the motion? I just want to say I hope the city can be flexible on this and approve it. And I appreciate the Hop House going the kind of distance to be creative and make it so that people can get out of the house, because I feel like some people could use that while also being as safe as possible. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the premise amendment request from the Hop House Brewing Company at 231 South Main Street, Verona, Wisconsin, as described by Alder Rieke, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Rieke?
Oh, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 9B, Public Works, Sewer and Water Committee. Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 9B1, I'm making a motion to approve a land acquisition agreement at 419 Lincoln Street for project ID 2018-108, East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Replacement.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Alder Touche.
This agreement is with Ms. Schultz, and it's for the purchase of 2 parcels adjacent to the Badger Mill Creek and south of Lincoln Street. The pursuit of the land was due to the need for additional easements for the replacement of the East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor. This acquisition was discussed with the council back in December of last year and led to a CSM submittal that was approved by the council in April of this year. The land acquisition agreement between the city and the owner includes payment for the 2 parcels of land and the intended use of the land. And the agreement is contingent, and I apologize I did not make this part of the motion, needs to be contingent upon the city administrator and city attorney review.
And that was the understanding of the second as well, the contingency? Okay.
That is all.
You have heard the explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no discussion, All those in favor of the land acquisition agreement at 419 Lincoln Street for project ID 2018-108 East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Replacement with the conditions specified, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Touche.
Great. Next up, item 9B2. I'm making a motion to approve amendment number 1 with Brown and Caldwell for project ID 2018-114 Lincoln Street Stormwater Management Facility Design.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Alder Touche.
This amendment is to expand the scope of service on the original contract with Brown and Caldwell. Brown and Caldwell are under contract to perform design, permitting, bidding services. Though the preliminary design stages meetings were held with the permitting agencies of Dane County and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and Army of Corps engineers. Through those discussions, additional analysis and alternatives were requested to maximize the efficiency of the facility and minimize impacts. The additional services will include more meetings, system modeling, some construction drawings, a channel classification, and a grant application to Dane County, some additional groundwater mitigation systems, and a dam design and permitting. The current original contract was for $108,800. The amendment is the addition of $35,470 with a new contract being a total of $144,270.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of amendment number 1 with Brown and Caldwell for project 2018-114, the Lincoln Street Stormwater Management Facility Design, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Touche.
Next up, item 9B3. I'm making a motion to approve a professional services agreement with AECom for project ID 2018-114 Lincoln Street Stormwater Management Facility Design, not to exceed $65,080.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Alder Touche.
This agreement is with AECom to assist in the design for Lincoln Street Stormwater Management Facility. Through the conversations that Brown and Caldwell had with the permitting agencies, the need to perform a dam design classification and permitting for the project requires specialized services. The scopes have been coordinated with Brown and Caldwell, what we just approved, and AECom to ensure there is no redundant work. AECom will be the lead on the preparation of any geotechnical design, permitting, and reporting for the dam at the facility. The dam has 2 elements: in-stream earthen diversion structure and landscaping berm separating the Lincoln Street Channel and the stormwater management facility main pools. Scope AECom includes hydraulic and hydraulic system modeling, groundwater mitigation system design, and dam design and permitting. As I said before, not to exceed $65,080. That is all.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of a professional services agreement with AECom for project ID 2018-114, Lincoln Street Stormwater Management Facility Design in the amount specified, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Touche?
That is all from Public Works. I do want to suggest, though, that if anyone's looked at some of the map designs, we're going to see the field behind the city change with this. It's pretty exciting. It's good for the environment and good for the city. So please take a look.
Something to look forward to. We will move on to item 10, new business. First up, we have 10A, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the payment of the bills. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My 5-year-old daughter just screamed from upstairs, so I apologize if anyone heard that. But I'll start by making a motion and to pay the bills in the amount of $888,627.53.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Kemp.
Yes, just for the sake of discussion, this month you'd see almost $200,000 in payments for the COVID-19 grant program that we passed. I should just very quickly make a side note. I have spoken with a couple of different business owners, and I think the city again did do a great thing to help out some of the small businesses in the area. You'd also see a payment in the amount of $435,916 to Payne and Dolan for the County Highway PD project, and a payment in the amount of $59,754 to TAPCO for light signals and crossing signals.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 10B, which is a discussion and possible action regarding professional services agreement with McMahon Associates, Inc. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The proposed agreement will provide management consulting services to assist in the transition of the fire chief. McMahon will assist the fire chief with fire department, the direction and the transition. Due to COVID-19, it is difficult to hire new staff, including fire department staff. Jeff Ramir of McMahon Associates will be working with the fire chief to provide management services until the fire department is fully staffed. The proposed agreement is for 3 months and can be extended if necessary. Staff recommends approval, subject to the final review by the city attorney. And in your packet was the proposal and the actual agreement as well.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions? Alder Journey, then Alder Cronin.
I have a question. So the contract calls for 18 to 24 hours per month of service, and I'm just wondering, will that be on-site or off-site?
It's a combination of both. It could be all on-site. It could be a split on-site, off-site, but it's really flexible on the needs of what Dan might need. The intent of this is to provide some support so you can get some policies in place, and then to assist just with whatever other issues that could possibly come up. So it's kind of on that on-call kind of role for at least the first 3 months here. But it could be a combination of both. Jeff is based about an hour away from here, so it's pretty easy for him to drive in if we need him to drive in. But it's going to be up to Chief Mahaka to kind of make that call of should he be coming in or not.
Thank you.
Alder Cronin.
So first, I just wanted to say that I am glad to see the city providing that support for Chief Mahatka, because we do want to see him be successful as he steps into this role. But I am curious to know how involved Mitch will be in this consultation as well, because as much as I hate to say it, this does cost money, and we are going to be looking at a very tight financial future for the city. So I'm not sure that I would be willing to support longer than 3 months.
Yeah, so Mitch will be involved. Mitch was active in trying to, as we've kind of reached out to Jeff here, Mitch was actively involved in that. Mitch was also involved already in our conversations with Jeff as well too. So Mitch will still be involved. I think part of this is, one, bringing someone in who's been in the fire service as well. It's slightly different than some of the typical human resources functions that we face and on more of the administrative side here, just because there's certain policies and procedures that we need to get in place in there that quite honestly aren't there right now. So there's certain things that we're going to have to do with Jeff's specialty that he's done elsewhere. He's assisted with transitions in Germantown. He's assisted in transitions, I think, in Johnson Creek as well. But the thought process being is, having this in place for 3 months to kind of get things to where they need to be. Right now, trying to post or fill positions is difficult. Part of this is Dan was an internal hire, so we still technically have his vacancy now to fill as well. And That's a whole different conversation of what he used to do, obviously, as a mechanic role. But Dan is trying to juggle kind of both those roles at this time. The thought being is if we could get him that help, at least in the interim, until we get through this COVID, hopefully, issue here, and we can hopefully free up some of the hiring processes, that this would help bridge that gap. So we don't burn Dan out. I think that's part of my concern as well, of trying to get him some help and trying to get him some of that administrative support, at least in the interim here. And but I think if the council wanted to stipulate that it's going to be 3 months, anything more than 3 months, we'd have to come back to the council. I think Dan would be fine with that. So I think Jeff would be fine with that. Jeff's initial thought to us was he recommended 3 months just based upon his experience in other communities. He thought that would be sufficient.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, motions? Alder Journey.
So one other question. When it comes to the end of that 3 months of the contract, will we be getting some sort of a briefing as to the outcome, the goals and then the outcome of the goals from that project?
No, there's not really a project. It's just if there's things that come up that Dan needs help with, say he doesn't have a policy for whatever it might be, instead of Dan going out and researching it and finding it and doing it, he can call Jeff and say, hey, I need a policy on this. What can you recommend to me? And at that point, Dan can take that forward and have it approved by his staff. So the thought process, just like I said, trying to free up his time. So it's not a specific report that you're going to have. It's more of that administrative help that Chief Mahaka will be receiving.
Thank you.
Questions, comments, or motions? Alder Kemp.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the professional services agreement with McMahon and Associates, with the caveat that, at least at this time, that agreement would go no longer than 3 months, and should we find a need to extend it, that it would come back to the council.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Anything to add, Alder Kemp?
Nothing further.
I guess while you're all pondering that, I do want to say, yeah, I think it's really valuable to provide support for the new chief, because he's been doing it as an interim, but I think it's a little bit different when you move into the role officially. And just for some of the situations we've had at the fire department, I think any support we can offer the chief so he's successful will be helpful and good, because management isn't always easy. But anyways, motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to, Clerk Clark, if you could read the roll on this one, just in case. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Alder Cronin,
Aye.
Alder Ryan, Alder Ryan,
Hold on. I got to pull him back in a different way. Hold on 1 second. Try it now.
I heard aye, so.
Alder Journey,
Aye.
Alder Cole,
Aye.
Alder Kemp,
Aye.
Alder Posey,
Aye.
Alder Rieke,
Aye.
Alder Touche.
And with that, the motion passes. Next, we will move on to item 10C, which is a discussion and possible action regarding an annexation agreement with the Gust and Mork properties. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. So the next two items on the agenda, items C and D, are both tied to the woods at the Cathedral Point development. So the first item is the annexation agreement. The second item is updating an annexation ordinance. This all ties back to the woods at Cathedral Point. So for the first item here, we have the annexation agreement. In September of 2019, the city approved an annexation agreement with Veridian to annex the lands for the woods at the Cathedral Point subdivision located at the southeast corner of Range Trail and County Highway M. Due to changes in the developer's acquisition plans, the existing property owners, the Gust and Mork families, are required to sign the agreement. Staff has no concerns with the changes and recommends approval subject to the final review by the city attorney. So this is in essence just cleaning up the annexation agreement where previously we had Veridian just signing it. Now we'll have Veridian and also the Gust and Mork families signing it. Veridian still plans on starting the project here approximately next month. You might see some earth being moved out there, but just due to changes in acquisition, we had to make a couple minor changes to these agreements. But I'd be happy answering questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions? Alder Cole.
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation agreement with Gust and Mork Properties, subject to final review by the city attorney.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Anything to add, Alder Cole?
No, thank you.
Motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll do a voice vote for this one. All those in favor of the annexation agreement with the Gust and Mork property with subject to the final approval as noted in the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we will move on to 10D, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the updated ordinance number 19-947, approving the annexation of 52.386 acres of land at the southeast corner of County Highway M and Range Trail. Mr. Sayre?
So thank you. So once again, this all ties back to the Woods at Cathedral Point subdivision. When we adopted the kind of annexation ordinance for this property, we had two conditions on there. One condition was it was subject to Veridian acquiring the property, and then second, an execution of an annexation agreement. With the Gust and Mork families now signing that annexation agreement, we can eliminate the condition of Veridian acquiring that. So staff recommends that that condition be removed as part of this updated ordinance number 19-947. But the execution of the annexation agreement will remain as a condition. So all we're doing here is just removing that acquisition condition, but leaving in place the annexation agreement condition. So once again, just a housekeeping item to update the agreements.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions on this item?
Take this one again since I took the other one.
Yeah, Alder Cole.
I'm making a motion to approve the updated ordinance number 19-947, approving the annexation of 52.386 acres of land at the southeast corner of County Highway M and Range Trail.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Journey. Anything to add, Alder Cole?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion before the body. Questions, comments on this motion? Seeing no further discussion, we will do a voice vote for this one. All those in favor of the updated ordinance number 19-947, approving the annexation of 52.386 acres of land at the southeast corner of County Highway M and Range Trail, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 10E, which is a discussion and possible action regarding resolution number R-20-018, extending the declaration of emergency in the city of Verona and the continuation of the joint executive authority. Mr. Sayre.
Thank you. So on April 13th of 2020, the city adopted a resolution declaring a state of emergency. The state of Wisconsin's public health emergency declaration has lapsed or is about to lapse due to conditions beyond the city's control. This resolution extending the state of emergency will remain in effect until July 15th of 2020. Just to clarify, the city's resolution is not a safer at home order, but it allows the mayor and city administrator to have joint executive authority to implement measures necessary in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. So what this does, it gives Luke and myself the ability, if there's an emergency policy we have to put in place like we've done before, we have the ability to do that outside of the standard operating procedure. Ultimately, those give back to the council, but Luke and I have the ability to, if there's a need, we could do that. All this is doing is extending our previous declaration from April until July 15th.
And if I could just add, I don't anticipate using it for anything. Mr. Sayer, was there anything kind of upcoming for this, or is this mainly just in case?
This is just in case, and this is just in case something comes up that we can react to it quickly. Last time we did this, if you recall, we actually executed this order outside of the council meeting, and ended up taking it back to the council meeting for approval. So we just want to have this on the front end just in case we need to do something, which we don't anticipate, and we hope we don't have to.
And anything in my mind would come back to the council, so you would get to see it if anything did happen.
Yes.
With that, questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Cronin.
Yes, I will make a motion to approve resolution number R-20-018, extending the declaration of emergency in the city of Verona and the continuation of joint executive authority. Do you need to put in till July 15th or just leave it?
Mr. Sayer?
No, it doesn't. It's in the actual order, so
Okay.
we're fine.
Motion by Alder Cronin. Is there a second?
Second.
Alder Journey had it. So seconded by Alder Journey. Anything to add, Alder Cronin? With that, motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-20-018, extending the declaration of emergency in the city of Verona and the continuation of the joint executive authority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we will move on to item 10F, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 20-019, waiving interest and penalties on certain delinquent property tax installment payments due in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. On May 7th, 2020, the Dane County Board adopted a resolution authorizing all taxing jurisdictions in Dane County to waive interest and penalties on late property tax installment payments. The proposed city resolution implements the authority granted by Dane County and waives all applicable penalties and interest on any installment payment of general property taxes payable in 2020 on property that is due and payable after April 1st of 2020, so long as it's paid before October 1st of 2020. So basically any taxes due after April 1st are now going to be due on before October 1st of 2020. Interest and penalties shall occur from October 1st of 2020 for any property taxes that are payable in 2020 that are delinquent after October 1st of 2020. So in essence, interest will be running on those payments. If someone doesn't make that payment by October 1st, the interest will have generated from that April 1st date or whichever date they hadn't paid them by. So it doesn't waive the interest, it just gives a couple months grace period to kind of make that payment. I know I received in the mail today my property tax kind of statement from the county. I think it still has on there the usual deadline, which is the end of July. But by this action, what we would do is any property tax payments would then be due by October 1st of 2020. So we would just extend the time period for city resident property taxpayers to make those payments. Staff recommends approval of this. Many other municipalities in Dane County have already adopted this or are in the process of adopting this.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Rieke.
So I presume you don't expect enough people to take advantage of this or need to use this, that it would affect our ability to pay bills?
Mr. Sayer?
So Dane County collects the second payment for us. So Dane County settles with us. So the first payment is actually collected by the city. The second payment is collected by the city. For us to pay bills, no, we have sufficient in reserves that if our settlement is delayed with Dane County, we might have to shift some funds around, but it's not an issue of not making those payments. It's the matter of just transferring some money possibly out of investments or out of our larger kind of savings account. So no, we have no concerns with this as staff.
Questions, comments, or motions? Alderiki.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-20-019, waiving interest and penalties on certain delinquent property tax installment payments due in 2020 as a result of COVID-19.
Motion by Alderiki. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Anything to add, Alderiki?
No?
Okay. Motion before the body. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-20-019, waiving interest and penalties on certain delinquent property tax installment payments due in 2020 as a result of COVID-19, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 10G, which is discussion and possible action regarding resolution number R-20-020, approving the release of development agreements with Anarev and approving a tax agreement with D&D Verona LLC. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The city has entered into several development agreements with Anarev LLC related to the technology park in tax increment financing district number 6. So this is for the Verona Technology Park. That's Livesey Company. In 2013, the city executed agreements for land divisions and tax agreements with the Wisconsin Brewing Company project located on American Way. These agreements contained terms and conditions that govern the lot that will be purchased by D&D Verona LLC. That's for the KSW construction office building. We approved that a month or two ago. And this is for the new office building. Anarev and D&D Verona LLC have requested the city release lots 9 and 10 of the Verona Technology Park from the obligations of the 2013 agreement. Staff and the city attorney have negotiated a mutual release of the agreements. As part of this release, D&D Verona LLC has agreed to enter into a tax agreement with the city where the property will remain taxable for the life of TID District number 6 and TID District number 8. Staff recommends approval of the development agreement releases and tax agreement subject to final review by the city administrator and city attorney. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions on this item? Questions, comments, or Alder Cronin?
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-20-020, approving the release of development agreements with Anarev and approving a tax agreement with D&D Verona LLC, pending approval by the city administrator and the city attorney.
Motion by Alder Cronin. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Journey. Anything to add, Alder Cronin?
No, thank you.
Thank you for making the motion. I was getting a little worried there. Motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-20-020, approving the release of development agreements with Anarev and approving a tax agreement with D&D Verona LLC with addition the conditions described by Alder Cronin, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 10H, discussion and possible action regarding a property use agreement with the Verona Area School District. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. In August of 2019, the city approved a conditional use permit for the Verona Area School District to construct a monument sign for the new high school on city property located at the southeast corner of West Verona Avenue and West End Circle. One of the conditions of approval was the conditional use permit shall become effective upon the school district and the city executing a property use agreement. The draft property use agreement is provided in the council packets. Of importance, the sign will be constructed over an existing sanitary sewer pipe. The draft agreement requires the school district to correct and pay for any damage to the city's pipe due to the installation or construction associated with the sign. The city is not liable for any damage to the sign during the future maintenance of the existing sanitary pipe. The term of the agreement is 30 years. The city and the school district executed a development agreement related to public improvements associated with the new high school, and staff has had issues administrating this development agreement. Staff cannot recommend approval of the sign agreement located over city utilities at this time until the city has a better understanding of how the city and the school district work together under the development agreement related to the new high school. Without assurances on this issue and commitment to work together, staff cannot recommend the city enter into another agreement with the school district to install a sign over city infrastructure. Also with me tonight, if there are questions, I have Chief Coughlin. I also have Public Works Director Theron Jacobson, and then also City Attorney Brian Kleinmeyer. And I'll probably pull Brian into the meeting right now just because I think there'll be some questions for him.
Always good to have the attorney on. Thank you for that explanation. Brian, can you hear us okay? Just double check.
He's still coming in right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Anything to add to what Mr. Sayer said?
Not at this time, but certainly available to answer questions.
All right. We have an explanation and a recommendation from city staff. Questions, comments, or motions on this item? Alder Kemp.
I was just going to say, I think that, I approve of the recommendation from staff. I think that, honestly, given some of the things that we've had to deal with, this is probably the prudent thing to do. And it makes sense for the city to kind of protect itself at this point. So.
Further questions, comments, or motions? Alder Cronin.
What would need to happen if we don't approve this tonight for the school to come back to the city for having to approve this? Or is this, we deny it and it's done?
Mr. Sayer?
Yeah, I think some time here. I think the reality is we're still in that development agreement for the road improvements out by the new high school. I think if we had some time to see how that agreement kind of works itself out here towards the end of it, I think there could be a possibility of coming back at that point. I think we've had some challenges elsewhere too, but I think it's just a matter of, ensuring that we have an open line of communication with the district and that we have a good understanding on these agreements that we have with them. But initially on this, I think it would just take some time to potentially could come back to you guys. I think from staff's perspective, it's not a no. It's just not now. This is not the right time, in our opinion, to approve this agreement when we're still working through one development agreement that's had some challenges to it. I think we'd like to see that one conclude and then reassess at that point. That'd be my recommendation tonight, at least.
I have a quick follow-up question. Has the school district mentioned their timeline on this? Like, is delaying a couple weeks, a month or two, is that gonna blow up their timeline, or would they be able to kind of progress on somewhat of a reasonable schedule? If Mr. Sayer.
I think Mr. Clammer, I think you had talked to the attorney for the district about this, correct?
Yeah, I think that I think from the school district's perspective, it would be safe to say that if they could get the sign approved, they'd like to have it approved earlier rather than later. That being said, I mean, there's certainly an understanding on the school district's part that the sign is on city property. It would be over city utility facilities, and I think that if one reasonable action tonight by the council is what Adam is talking about, and that is essentially a motion to table any action. We can go back and talk to them. I think it also, in light of what Adam said, I mean, the speed with which this would come back to the council, the ball may be in the court for the school district too. We've obviously expressed to the school district at the staff level some concerns that we've had with respect to the administration of the development agreement for the road project. And there's every opportunity for both sides to sit down and, work through that to the point where this document could then come back to the council even as early in, I don't want to set any timetable, but it definitely could come back this summer. And with the school opening in the fall, or my understanding is the high school's opening in the fall, obviously subject to anything related to the viruses, there still potentially would be time to get the sign put up before school opens or close to after school opens.
I have a quick follow-up question, and then I will call on Alder Kemp. So if we entered into an agreement with the school district that basically said they wouldn't sue us if, when we were maintaining the utilities and damage their sign, I mean, just because there's a contract, they could decide if they wanted to sue us anyway, right?
Well, I mean, typically you don't have language in a document that says they can't sue each other. I mean, you always remain if somebody is and the reason why you don't have that is if you execute an agreement with one party and the other party violates it, you definitely want the ability to pursue some type of lawsuit. Here, with respect to this agreement, I mean, it does have a number of protections for the city in light of the fact that it's on city property and the sign would be over some utility facilities. And it just kind of, I think from a legal standpoint and a contract drafting standpoint, I feel comfortable with the language that we have in the agreements. But there's always then if something were to happen, you always just want to follow the language in the agreements. And you don't want to have a situation where you need to go to court to enforce the agreement. And I'm not, obviously nothing like that has happened with respect to the road project agreement, but in light of some of the administrative issues of that agreement, I think at a staff level, we do have some concern that if something were to happen to our sewer facilities, and I think that's really significant here. If we didn't have facilities underneath the sign, I think, and Adam, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we may be approaching this a little bit differently at a staff level. But the fact that the sign is going to be over our facilities, there is the potential for some type of damage, and we don't necessarily have a comfort level at this point that we would be able to just work through the agreement with the school district. That's what's causing the staff level recommendation of, I mean, at this point, I think to table the action to see if we can work through some issues.
Thank you. I have Alder Kemp and then Alder Ryan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. If we're not under any real time crunch, I'm just going to steal the words right out of Evan's mouth that he spoke earlier. Quite frankly, a lot of times the worst decisions you can make are the ones that are made in haste. And so if we can use a little bit more time to, have some more discussions with them, I think that's prudent. But this is the same thing I'd be advising my clients to do in my day job. So I don't think there's any real reason to vote on it right now. Attorney Kleinmeyer hasn't given us, a hard and fast date or anything like that, and he's in communication with them. So I'm inclined to probably file a motion like I'm in court, but submit a motion to the council to table it for now and let the staff do a little more work on it.
Okay, Alder Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with Alder Kemp. I don't think we should be hasty in the decision. I do wonder whether or not there's, an alternate placement of the sign that doesn't involve placing it over city property. Has that been discussed?
Mr. Sayer?
Yes, that's been discussed before with them about possibly locating a sign on their own property, looking at a location potentially along 18151, and their desire, and I can just share the screen here. Their desire is to kind of locate it here along Verona Avenue. So you have West Verona Avenue here, you have West End Circle running north-south, and the big issue at hand here is this line, as you kind of see it, it's green on my screen, I'm not sure what color it is on yours, but it runs right between the two kind of pylons of that sign, the two posts that bury into the ground. So it literally straddles the city's sanitary pipe that drains the apartments out on the west end and also drains the new commercial developments going up in the west end as well. Initially with the district, we had some conversations about pushing this sign to the east, kind of down towards, heading east towards the hotels. The issue with that is that the grade in that location, and you can kind of see on the plan here, it drops off considerably. It goes down the hill there. So from a visibility standpoint, the district was concerned with that. So are there other locations? I think there are. I think from a district standpoint, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I don't think they're ideal for the district from a visibility standpoint.
Any follow-up to that, Alder Ryan?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Kemp.
Yeah, and looking at the picture that Adam just put up there, now I'm even more more insistent that we take our time in making this kind of a decision. I don't know if they even thought about moving it forward, 10 or 15 feet closer to the road, or if the city had a problem with that. But this runs right over a line, so I think we need to be cautious and exercise caution in this case. And I would be inclined to try and get some more assurances from the district.
Part of the issue here too, I can just jump in, is the dashed line here, just for reference purposes, that's the edge of the property. So anything in the kind of the white area surrounding the kind of the polygon here, that's actually in road right of way. So from a strictly sign and legal and a variety of reasons standpoint, the sign cannot go in the road right of way. So they're kind of boxed in, if you want to call it, into this brownish tannish type polygon. That's where it virtually has to go, because it cannot go in the road right away. So it's tough to move it. This is about as far west and far north as we can take it.
Further questions, comments, or motions? Alder Kemp.
I mean, I can make a motion to table this if you'd like. I don't know if we need that.
I think that's kind of dealer's choice. What the council could decide to take no action. I think potentially tabling it might provide clarity to the situation, or to refer it to such a time that staff feels they can recommend it. Mr. Kleinmeyer, do you have any thoughts on appropriate wording?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with both you and with Alder Kemp. I mean, you don't necessarily have to make a motion to table, although I do believe that that action by the council on this will provide clarity for purposes of the staff as it goes back and tries to work with the school district staff. And so if Alder Kemp is willing to make a motion, I mean, a motion to table action on the property use agreement with the Verona Area School District, I think would be an appropriate motion.
I can do that.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Ryan. Anything to add, Alder Kemp?
No, sir.
Motion before the body. Questions, comments on the motion? I'll just say one thing. I do think we're going to get to the point where the school district is going to be able to get. I think, me being optimistic, that we'll get to a point where the school district is going to be able to place a sign. But I just think it just seems like there needs to be more work done. But anyways, any other discussion on this motion? For this one, I'm going to have the clerk read the roll on the motion to table. So I guess if the clerk would read the roll.
Alderperson Ryan.
Aye.
Alderperson Journey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kemp. Alderperson Cole.
Aye.
Alderperson Posey.
Aye.
Alderperson Reekie.
Aye.
Alderperson Touche.
Aye.
Alderperson Cronin.
Aye.
With that, the item is tabled. I guess I look forward to hearing what happens next from city staff. Next, we will move on to item 10I, which is a discussion and possible action regarding resuming in-person meetings and requirements for virtual meetings. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. With the implementation of the forward Dane plan, staff is requesting feedback from the Common Council as to when to start in-person council and committee meetings. Presently, staff has scheduled virtual meetings for the week of June 1st. That's for the Plan Commission and the CDA meeting. Social distancing and precautions would be required for in-person meetings, but staff is requesting feedback from the council as to when to start these meetings again. Staff did go into the council chambers about a week and a half ago. We kind of taped off some areas that would space people at the dais 6 feet apart. We'd have to move at least two alders, possibly three alders down to the front on tables. And then we'd have staff potentially in the audience as well. So there's ways that we could do that. I know one of the questions I got at one point was, is there a way of doing a combination of a in-person council meeting and a Zoom kind of council meeting at the same time? I'll be honest, there's probably a way to do it, but we don't have an in-person in-house IT person. It would be a lot of logistic work for staff to kind of pull that off. So I guess my feeling on that is, I think if we're going to go a direction, we should probably pick one. And the only reason I'm bringing this up tonight is Mayor Diaz and I have had a few conversations on this, but obviously the next council meeting is on, I think, June 8th. We just want to kind of start planning, if we're going back to in-person, that we kind of have this conversation and just, and we can keep revisiting it every meeting if you guys want as well, but wanted to at least move forward with the conversation. I know there are some smaller communities in Dane County that are meeting in person and obviously elsewhere, but we wanted to at least kind of take the conversation to the council. I think the big challenge we're going to have at some point in the future is we do have at least one closed session item that we'll have to have in the near future. I know there's ways you can have a closed session virtually. I don't like it. It just gives me a lot of pause, and I think it's problematic. But those are the ones at some point we're going to probably have to go back and do in person, because those logistically doing a closed session is less than ideal. But anyways, Mayor Diaz and I talked, and we kind of wanted to have this on the agenda to kind of get the conversation going and discussion going, looking at potentially the next council meeting, especially, just so staff can start making arrangements if we go back in person, or if we don't, we just know what direction we're going with for meetings. So I guess I'll just turn over to, that's what staff wanted to say, and I'll turn it over to the council. It's your decision.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council? Alder Cole, then Alder Journey, then Alder Touche.
My thoughts is that we should continue doing Zoom for as long as we can. I have a daughter who's high risk, and I still have to go to work during the day. And so I try to really minimize going out in public and interacting with people outside of having to go to work. And I think this is working. I know you said there's the closed session issue, but in general, I think it's been working really well, and I don't see any reason to run out and start, interacting. And, the virus isn't gone. And I think we just need to be cautious and judicious in our decision making. So I would vote to just continue on the way we are for the time being.
Alder Journey, then Alder Touche, and then Alder Kemp.
So I agree with Alder Cole. The Dane County COVID-19 data on their website, they have very specific measurements as far as being in a safety zone, and it revolve around epidemiology, which relies upon testing, and then also healthcare, whether or not our facilities can handle any crisis situations. So far, we're in the green on that, and then also public health concerns. So I think that the guidance is pretty specific within Dane County, and I would recommend that we follow along however Dane County is moving. And you've already mentioned that you don't plan on opening up City Hall until for at least another month. So, based upon that, I would suggest that we continue our Zoom meetings.
I have Alder Touche, then Alder Kemp.
I think this is a trend. I was about to recommend the Zoom as well. I think we can be creative on closed session meetings. Maybe it has to be an independent meeting of its own that is limited to the council, and then we report back in a public meeting. Yeah, as much as I would much rather be in the council chambers, honestly, I think we could be like this till the end of the year or longer. So let's Zoom on. Thank you.
Alder Kemp.
I'll just give a thumbs up to everything everyone's saying. You know, there's no reason to take any risks. It's a serious disease. People need to, you know, take all precautions they can at this point.
Any other questions or comments on this item? I think, if I may, I think Mr. Sayer, you're probably aware that we'll be having a Zoom meeting for the next council meeting. All right.
We might just hold it on, if it's okay with everybody, I might just hold it on there every month just so we can gauge if there's any change, or if there is a change, let me know. We can throw it on the agenda for discussion. So we'll plan on doing virtually until we're told otherwise, which is fine.
Sounds good. With that, we'll move on to item 11, which is adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Rieke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And with that, we are adjourned at 8:16 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.